This month, I'm giving you the chance to win this brand new Discovery Optics Ed-Lht Gen 2 3-15 by 50 rifle scope. In order to win this absolutely fantastic prize worth £400, all you've got to do is subscribe to the channel, pop along to the shop anytime in February. You will be then invited onto our range to take 10 shots freestanding at 10 metres. We will then take all the scores from everyone who competes, and whoever gets the highest score at the end will get this absolutely awesome prize. Now I know what some of you are thinking. You're sat there thinking, well, I want to take part but I'm not local to the shop. Well, fear not, because I also have this Discovery Optic 3-12 by 42 to give away. And in order to enter, all you've got to do is like, subscribe if you haven't already, and then comment win. And at the end of February, I will pick someone completely at random and send you it absolutely free of charge. So what have you got to lose? So the rifle I've chosen for you to use is this pre-owned Virak HW77 in 2.2. So I'm going to get this scope mounted up now, hit the time lapse. So I'm about to zero the rifle, and the targets we're going to be using are these Bisley targets, and they score from 1 to 10, and the pellets we're going to be using are Bisley 2.2 practice. Right, so we've got our zero, obviously shooting from a rest. I'll now take 10 freestanding shots to sort of set a benchmark, and let's see how we do. I must say the quality of this ED glass is excellent. Which is more than I can say for my shooting. It wasn't going to be made easy for you. It's quite a hefty rifle to hold. But who doesn't like a challenge? Last but not least. Okay. Well, in fairness, I'm actually fairly happy with that. So all 10 in the black at least, and I will top that score up just as a benchmark. Obviously I'm not competing, but it gives something to work to. So let's talk through some features of the scope. First of all, the clicks are really nice and crisp. That was the first thing that grabbed my attention. They're not lift-up locking turrets, which I thought they would be, so if you're not careful, you can adjust it by accident. However, you do need fairly firm grip, so you'd have to knock it quite hard. The second thing is that these have a zero stop turret, and what that means is once you've zeroed, which I have at 10 meters, the turret is in whatever position that was when I zeroed it in. Now you can take this little plate off at the top, like so, lift the turret directly off, and obviously you can see the numbers on there. So if you'd zeroed at a different range and then wanted to come back to where your original starting point was, you'd want to turn it back to zero. So what you do is you find where zero is and you put it directly in your eye line, so you know now that when you turn that turret back to zero, it's zeroed in at your original range. And you simply replace the plate on the top. Make sure you hold the turret, because if you tighten it up and you're not holding the turret, then you are going to adjust, although not that that matters, because you know where your 0 point is. You can do this with the windage turret as well. Now, I was very impressed with the quality of glass in this optic. It's sort of on par with maybe the Hawk Frontier, which is a little bit more expensive, but it's in that kind of bracket. The scope looks to me very sort of Zeiss-esque. I think there's some influence there from the Zeiss scopes. The parallax comes down to 10 yards and goes all the way up to 500 and then infinity. You have an illuminated reticle. I think the scope looks really good. You've got a 30mm tube to ensure you're getting the best out of the daytime. Now, this scope is in the first focal plane, and those of you who don't know the difference between first focal plane and second focal plane, I'm going to go through that with you now. So, the difference between first and second focal plane scopes is that in the second focal plane, which the majority of scopes are, in fact, you wouldn't get a first focal plane scope until you start spending in the hundreds. So, a conventional rifle scope that you might buy for £50 to £200, it's very unlikely you're going to find one in the first focal plane. So what's the difference? Well, in the second focal plane, when you wind your magnification up, your reticle stays exactly the same size from start to finish. Meaning, if we take this cup, for example, if you're aiming on 3 times magnification with a second focal plane scope, when you increase that and the target becomes closer to you, where you are aiming won't be in the middle anymore. You will have to physically adjust your rifle to be where you were at the lower magnification. Now with a first focal plane scope, if we wind the magnification up, the reticle grows with the magnification, meaning that when you get to the higher magnification, you are still going to be in the middle of your target. Now this is very useful for people that are target shooting, hunter field target, that type of discipline. If you are hunting, it doesn't really matter. Now what I tend to find is, and this is what I think scope manufacturers are learning now, is if you've got a scope with a huge magnification range, I mean this one's 3 to 15, if you were looking at something with a 5 to 25 times magnification, on the low magnification your reticle is going to be tiny because it needs room to grow through the entire magnification range. Now there's a few scopes that I've tested in the past that the reticle's just far too big when you're on the full mag. So let's again take this cup for example. If you wound it up right to the highest magnification, the reticle would be covering your target, so you couldn't get a perfect point of aim. So that is why manufacturers set the reticle so small when it's a big magnification range, and I kind of see it as pointless being on the lowest magnification because you can hardly see the reticle a lot of the time. Now this has done it very well because the shape of the reticle conforms with whether it's on a low mag or whether it's on a high mag. So I hope that I've been clear and concise in the difference between first and second focal plane, but I'm sure I'll get plenty of comments explaining it better, so please go ahead. Now, like you saw when I unboxed it, the accessories that come with it are really quite a nice touch. So you get a lens pen, and that's got a little duster on it. You get a sunshade, about 4-inch sunshade, flip up covers, and you also get, which I've never ever seen in a rifle scope box, is this scope leveling kit. Now I didn't use it, but I think it could possibly come in handy for those who want to be very precise. And if I can actually get it out of the box, I'll show you what it looks like. So you have 3 bits that come in the box. I haven't made it easy to get out. There we go. And this is what they look like. So you get this little block and these 2 pieces shaped like that, one thicker and one thinner. So the idea behind this is that you would have this little block on top of your action, and depending on the height of your scope mount, you would then slide this piece on top, and let me see if I can make it work. And then I'm guessing the idea is that the body of the scope sits flush on this piece, so you know that you're exactly flat. Now, I think that's a nice touch. Whether it's a bit gimmicky, I don't know, because a lot of people mount their rifles differently. So even if it was scientifically perfect, you might find you mount the rifle and it looks off. So I still think it's a nice little touch, and I could see some customers of mine finding that quite useful. That's what it looks like there. Also, what you don't normally get with a rifle scope is a set of mounts, and these actually look quite good. Now, the reason that most scopes don't come with mounts is because generally you don't know what rifle they're going to end up on. So you don't know whether you're going to need 11mm dovetail for most air guns. You don't know if you're going to need Weaver mounts, which these have been supplied with, and that's only if you're using rimfire air gun. If you're using something like a centerfire with, like, say, a Seiko, for example, these are going to be redundant because you're going to have to buy bases. They're very specific. Something like a CZ 527 or something like that, you're going to be out of luck with these. You're going to have bases to put on. But I still think it's a very nice touch to supply them with these. But in the same sort of breath, kind of a waste of time, because, like, I've put this on a rifle with an 11mm dovetail, so these are sort of redundant, but they come with it, so you can't complain, really. You also get this little piece here, which screws into the side of the magnification wheel. If I don't drop it, like that, for ease when you're holding the rifle or you've got the rifle mounted. So overall, I think that is a fantastic package for £400.
So I take the unit outside, and just to show you how clear this glass is, I find a pigeon sat in the tree, and it is only at about 10 meters there. I zoom all the way in to 15 times magnification, so you can see that reticle growing nice and clearly. In a moment, as you can see now, I adjust the parallax, and it is very, very crisp, even at such a short range. I went a bit too far and it became out of focus. Then I took the optic out even further, so I'm getting rested up here. I spot a pigeon. This is out at about 140, 150 yards. As you can see, that first focal plane reticle growing really, really nice and crisp. Get that into focus, and you can just see that the quality of this glass is very, very good.
So let me talk you through the 3 to 12 by 42. So it's a little bit more compact and you get a few less features. For instance, you don't get the thumb attachment for the magnification. It's in the 3 to 12 by 42 magnification as opposed to the 3 to 15 by 50. You do still get a 30mm tube and it is still in the first focal plane, and the reticle is really quite nice. I'll show you that there on the box. You still get the 0 stop turrets, and these are actually lift-up locking turrets. Now, it's £150 less than the other unit, and I'm struggling to see why that is, apart from you get a few bits less in the box. So you do still get a set of weaver rings. They're not as high quality as the others, granted. You do still get a sunshade, but you don't get the scope leveling kit, and you don't get the lens pen. But I've just been looking through this. The clarity is really, really, really good. So I don't know where the £150 difference comes from, because I think they're both basically as good as each other. And like I say, if you want to be in with a chance to win this one, which you will not be disappointed with, like, comment, win, and if you haven't already, make sure you subscribe.